is Odyssey. I'm your host, Joshua Cuthbertson, and I'm here to introduce you guys to a good friend of mine, Ben Grant Mitchell. Welcome, my friend.
Ah, thank you very much. What a wonderful introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here with a fellow warrior.
Thank you, my man. Appreciate it. So, I feel like I'm not going to give you a good introduction. I feel like you need to tell the audience who you are because there's so much to you. There's so many avenues that I could go into. You and I have known each other for a long time. We've just spoke for like, 30, 40 minutes just
Yeah,
catching up, and so yeah, like, introduce yourself to the world.
sure. Hello, world. My name is Ben Grant Mitchell, which is a derivative of Benjamin Grant Mitchell. And name is something I've explored a lot over the last few years, especially becoming more aware of the straw man and certain concepts about that separate us, the idea of who we are from who we really are. And it's a pretty deep thing to get into in an introduction, but I know that if you're watching Josh, that you're into this, and I know that you are looking for deeper truths and spiritual connection and something more than the surface experience, the surface level experience of life. I've always wanted that. For as long as I can remember, I've been searching. It started by looking out the window when I was at school and thinking, there's more to learn out there than in this classroom. I still feel the same way, although I did learn at various schools. I dropped out of three colleges, a drama college, physical education. I didn't get the marks to be a physical education teacher, which was what I wanted to do after I started working in a gym when I was 16. I wanted to be an actor, so I made that happen, and I dropped out of college because I got a part. So then I was a professional actor, and all the while I was learning how to make music and write songs. And that's what I did for about 7 years in London. And while I was doing all this, chasing dreams, I was learning about metaphysics and about Eastern philosophies and not going deep. And I never went to India for, 3 years and hid away and starved myself. But I've been on my own spiritual journey to find out what really matters. And I think I'm closer than I've been before, but that might be a trick of my ego to get me to go on about myself like this in a podcast. Let's see. Let's find out together.
Love it, man. Thank you. Appreciate that. So, for everyone listening, what Ben and I are going to be talking about is, I think, I just think it is very important that I think as we move from our old culture into this new culture, this new world, this new era that we're all experiencing, because I think if you are like us, you are feeling the change in the air. And I think a lot of people they know that the world is made up by vibration, frequency, and energy. But a lot of us don't really know what that means because we are brought up in a school that doesn't really encourage these sort of ideas. It encourages us to just look at the world through one type of lens, whether that's incorrect because there are multiple dimensions, there are multiple ways of looking at things, more colors on the spectrum that we can count. And I think these are very important ideas to get across. So, Ben, first thing I want to ask you is, what is frequency and what is vibration and what is energy, and how do those three work together?
Well, frequency comes from vibration because the idea of vibration is that cells or particles or even the airwaves themselves are vibrating at certain rates, at different rates. And it's easy to think about, say, the tide, the ocean, how it comes in and those rhythmic waves. As an obvious vibration. You could look at leaves vibrating in the wind, and as the wind speeds up, the vibration of the leaves speeds up as well. But if you look closer, even when there's no wind, those leaves and the cells in those leaves are vibrating as well. And because they're vibrating, there'll be some sort of frequency, a sound. Now, we can't hear it. Thank goodness. We might all go mad, right? There are certain limits, like you mentioned, the the light spectrum. And anyone who's experimented with certain hallucinogenics or perhaps meditated for a long time and not eaten for a while might have seen more of the spectrum of light. And in that spectrum of light, you might see vibrations that we are not in tune with now. And I really love your introduction about why it's important to understand frequency and vibration, because we have heard stories about indigenous cultures teaching about these sort of things, about other dimensions that are here that you may be able to see. Now, those cultures didn't have one thing: TV. Now, TV is entertaining, and my family are watching a movie now while I'm doing this, and we might have sold one TV and then we might have got one back over the last few years, gifted to us or whatever. But the thing about the TV, it represents an easy way for those who have a lot of resources to put their ideas out to people on a mass level. So whereas in the indigenous days, you might have had a chief, the most he could do is gather all the people, and he needed to speak with a big voice and some sort of authority, and then maybe his influence would be felt by the tribe. And so that would come down to his health. They would see him, they would witness this physical specimen, and they would see and feel his spirit. And the television has a way of just of hiding that. And over the years, they've gotten those who choose to spend their money and resources on putting their ideas there to influence others, to buy things mainly. But that also means getting people to think in a certain way about what's important. And it's not important to everyone. We think it is because we see it so much, but it's important to the people who are, I'm just looking for the right words, controlling, who are spending that money, let's say, putting those resources into influencing lots of people and what they think about. So we are, in many ways, those of us who grew up watching a lot of television or who still watch it, getting a lot of our vibration and therefore frequency from the ideas and images in a television, which is coming to us from afar, from people we don't know, and who often, it's becoming more and more obvious, do not have our best interests at heart. They just see us as batteries, as just exemplified metaphorically in the Matrix movie, as batteries just to get the energy from, and we're discardable. Is that right? To them as well. So the more we can get in tune with a natural vibration, we'll return to a natural frequency, and there's power there that maybe a lot of us haven't ever discovered, or not since we were very, very young.
Right. And so something vibrates. It has a frequency. Does that mean when we're relating to like the idea of the leaf having this vibration to it that we just cannot see? Is that the same for like a pen, or is it only a living? Ah, right.
Absolutely. Everything has a vibration, though it might be so minute and so small. So inanimate objects still have are made of something, and what they're made of is particles. And I don't know what there's at various times different physics scientists will say we're made up of mostly air and space, and everything is made up of mostly not even air, but just like space, and like the human body, the actual cells, the solid, if you will, particles would be like some people like say maybe 3%, right? These concepts are pretty out there, but they're also been proven. If you get a microscope and you look closer and go deep enough, all you see is more space. All you see is more space. And what you also see is that the particles that are there respond to the viewer. So even the act of looking has a vibration in it. And you can sort of know that if you walk into a bar or something, and there's very different looks you can get from all the characters in a bar. The flirty girl might look at you a certain way. The jealous boyfriend might look at you a certain way. The bouncer, the bartender, I use barkeep, that's a nice old word, because they all have different expectation of what they want to happen or what they fear is going to happen. So even in that the way that they look, they're actually starting to affect what's going to happen. And that's why if you think about the concept of the masters, the Zen masters, and whatever you visualize, bet it's not an aggressive stare. It's a look that goes in. It's back. They're almost looking backwards. There's nothing coming out. They're an empty vessel because they're not, they're not imposing anything. There's no anger that needs to be expressed. There's no lust that needs to be acted upon. Ideally, this is the concept, right, of the master, that those ego aspects are not squashed or quashed. They are just temporarily silent. And so that, yeah, even the look isn't causing anything to happen. When you mentioned the leaf, the vibration, I've got a tuning fork here. We'll see if it works. So the tuning fork, right, which is just one solid item, metal. Now its shape, what makes it different? Let's go like this. There's a small one and a big one. So the smaller one vibrates more rapidly. So it has a higher pitch because it's vibrating, making the airwaves vibrate between it quicker. This one actually is 963 hertz. That means it's vibrating at 963 cycles per second. Of course, science likes to
Can you
confuse
just
the
put that
Yep.
into the mic a bit closer?
Yep. Can you hear that?
I'm just getting it. If you listen closely, guys, you can just sort of hear it.
No. All right. Well, let's hear this other one, and I'll hit that.
What
So
was
this
that?
is
Yep.
so
Yeah,
that's
I
deeper.
got it for like a 2 seconds, but yeah,
That one.
there you
Right. So
go.
let's
Yep.
go to the deepest one I have here. So that was 432 hertz, and this is 174 hertz.
Right, that came through very cleanly.
This microphone picks up the deeper ones. So let's bring this into the audience, you guys, so that it's got a bit more relevance. So this 432 hertz tuning fork is vibrating at 432 cycles per second. And this is a significant frequency because some people believe that music recorded to this frequency being the bass, is easier to listen to, more soothing for the soul, and more grounding, and basically superior for us to experience to music recorded at 440 hertz. And what that means is the A note is tuned to 440 cycles per second in most music you hear. Since 2020, I've been recording when I make music at 432 hertz. So the A note is tuned to 432 hertz. So it's 8 cycles per second slower. Now, that's not very much. In fact, a lot of musicians won't even be able to tell the difference, but there's a different feeling. And people speculate, and I guess I'm one of those people, as to the benefits of that, making that slight adjustment in tuning. And one of the main benefits that I feel is that at least it's different to what everyone else is doing. Now, being different isn't the only, being different for its own sake isn't necessarily a good thing. But also being willing to try something different is, I think, very good. And something like frequency, just tuning is a great place to start.
It's very interesting. So going back to everything in this world that we can see, feel, touch, taste, everything vibrates. And so as everything vibrates, everything has a frequency to it. So my whole body is vibrating at a certain cycles per second.
Sure, it could be measured that way.
Right. And so if I vibrate at, you know, this sort of level, I'm giving off a frequency and and an energy. Would this mean that this idea of aura and chakras, would that almost validate what our ancestors were talking about when they said that I could see your aura, I can feel your, your energy?
Yeah. Yeah,
This is
I
what they were
think
talking about.
sure. And that interesting, that word validate, because we've been conditioned to need to do that, show me the link, right?
Yes, yeah.
Show me
Where's the
the
evidence?
show me
Have you
the
done your research, bro?
the
Yeah,
peer
that sort of thing.
reviewed, right? Well, peer just means people like you. It doesn't mean superiors. It doesn't mean, moralistic people. It doesn't mean people who are bound by ethics. It means people, peers, just the same. You can have bad peers and you can have good peers. So peer review means jack shit, right? What means something is your experience. Now, if you meet someone with a good energy, you might not do it. It might not happen that much these days because, some people say we're in this a world war that we can't see, this war on energy. And I certainly see that I've seen people take blows that have taken a lot of their life force. And I've seen people, and I've been someone who has self-sabotage in that way, where I've hurt myself, where I've had too much alcohol, or I've tried drugs. I don't know what they are or who made them, but at the time I thought it was cool because my subconscious wanted me to fit in with these actor people, and they were also cool. And I've seen it on movies, and the hero survives even if he suffers for a while, and I'm a hero. So I've done things that really, at the time, zapped so much of my life energy. But through that experience, and like, I'm sure that's a phoenix behind you, isn't it? It looks like a phoenix rising. I know it's some bird
Yeah,
of some,
it's
yeah,
a
right.
phoenix. It's
It's a
100%
phoenix.
a phoenix. Yeah, you did well.
100%. So, like the phoenix rising from the fire, our frequency and vibration can get tuned down, and by our own hand, or by who knows what they want to spray or put in the food or whatever. But we can also, I believe, transcend that and connect to a higher frequency, higher in so much as not superior, but perhaps because we're ready for a new experience, and we're ready to see more of the magnificence of this realm, and to experience more of our own magnificence. And what does that feel like? Can I vibrate? Can I tune in to something new?
This is a very interesting idea, and it, it's it's fascinating to me because it almost it kind of gives you perspective on the world on a very simple and grand, but also very advanced scale. So it
Mm.
like simplifies things, but makes it complicated. But it simplifies it at the same time because it's
Yeah.
interesting. So would you argue that states of mind?
Yeah.
So let's just say, have you heard of like uh I think it's Hawkinson's or Dawkinson's scale of consciousness?
Oh, yes, I have heard of that.
Yeah, so of like, anger being at the bottom, then you
Hmm.
have fear, then you have sadness,
Hmm.
depression, then you have courage, then you have love, enlightenment, and then
Hmm.
all these other more
Hmm.
positive ways of
Hmm.
being. So would that would this idea of frequency suggest that if you are in a state of mind, if you are in anger and you're feeling angry, this is um just the frequency. It's just you vibrating at a certain level. And if you can control your frequency, that means you can get out of that state. So people who are depressed, like many people are depressed these days, right?
Hmm.
A lot of them will take, antidepressants and all sorts of drugs that the doctors love to sell us because that's how
Hmm.
they make money.
Hmm.
If someone understood frequency and he or she was, vibrating in depression for a number of years,
Hmm.
this argument would say that all you need to do is rise your level, as it were, your frequency.
Hmm.
Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah. Yeah, like the idea of subscribing or prescribing what you should or shouldn't do, what you need to do. I'm always very careful of, because it's because I grew up with a minister of religion for a father for the first
Mm.
10 years of my life. So I know where guilt and shame love to grab onto, and any sort of what you should do sort of is always, to me, um, it's a path to sort of those other emotions. So what I would say, if you can recognize that what you're experiencing is a frequency. So I was on the phone today because the internet was crap. So I was speaking to someone in India, and I was, because they say that the recording, the recording, sorry, the conversation will be recorded, and because I know their systems, and I knew that the person I'm talking to is not really, she just, he and she are just doing their jobs as they're directed to do it. But I still expressed my dissatisfaction because I had to say the same thing over and over, and saying, because I know this is being recorded, so I hope that this can possibly contribute to changing your process at some time. Not even believing necessarily that will happen, but it was important for me to express it. And I was feeling myself getting a bit angry, and I checked that, because I thought, well, that's not helping me. I'm not angry at these people, it's the system, but I wanted it to go on record as well. And I wanted to just let that communication come out. And as I got aware that's what was happening, I just retuned myself, so I didn't let the anger go anywhere. But I had to but it was through experiencing it. So if I'd quickly taken an antidepressant, anti-angry, anti-anger drug, at the moment I felt my sort of spirit rising, I wouldn't have experienced that, and all I would have done is turn that frequency down. But it doesn't go away. It's like suppressing the energy of a wind up, something like a rubber band or something. You keep winding it up on those old planes, and you just put it down, and the energy's still there. It's still got to whirl out. So what I would say, if you say you were on antidepressants and you're thinking about this idea of tuning up your frequency, it's about perhaps having the courage and somehow finding the environment where you can let those feelings come up and become aware of what they are, and let them spend, and also become aware of what might be contributing to them happening more. There might be people in your lives that you don't want in your life as much. There might be relatives that are really just giving you their energy, and you might be sensitive and just been taking it on and on and on, and they keep coming, and you're the one. This concept of the scapegoat and the black sheep in the family. And a lot of empaths talk about this, and it's true. I've got an auntie who suffers from schizophrenia. They labeled it years ago, but I've always found her to be one of the most insightful people and sensitive people in my life. And I've known from my own experience, there's nothing mad about her. She has just been, surrounded by a frequency that doesn't make any sense to her because it's not authentic. So yeah, like you said, I love it. It's a way of simplifying, but it also sort of somehow
Mm.
makes it complicated as well. But it can be simple, and that's why I like it. It's about and the frequency attracts the frequency. So what you've got around you is what your frequency is. And if you don't like what's around you, you can't go out and change the expression of that frequency. You go to the source. How can I vibrate differently? How can I lift my energy and raise my energy, which will in turn, it's semantics in a way, raise my frequency. It's energy. My energy, energy vibrates, good energy vibrates fast, it's moving, it's energized. When we stop, the one end of the spectrum is no oscillation, right? That's death, right? Like there's zero up and down, no cycles per second. And then, you've seen them on those ECG thingos and movies and stuff, we need to see this. We've got to have some up and down. That's life. And yeah, just tuning that into what part of life, well, that's part of the journey, isn't it?
That's yeah, that's really interesting. So to because I for me this makes sense because okay, so I I feel like I'm a pretty good person to like. I'm good to interview you for this reason because I know and understand frequency and vibration and energy, but I still have so many questions about it. And so, I do want to come from a place where a lot of people perhaps only just starting to hear these sort of ideas.
Hmm.
So, how would you sort of for me, it makes sense. Like even like a crystal.
Hmm.
So like I got like a crystal here. There's there's this color, there's the hardness to it, and people argue that certain crystals will help you with certain things. And as skeptical as I am about whether or not they actually do what they say they're going to do, they still give off a frequency and a vibration. So they must do something. There's something quite magical about it. But how would you try to get someone to understand that this world is scientifically proven by from people in the science world who are apparently gods, and they can just say whatever they want and people
Hmm.
just believe them because they have the white coat. But
Hmm.
I think you and I are talking about truth, but we also feel like we need to justify it somehow. So I don't, how do you put the puzzle together for the minds that are not quite there yet?
One of the things you said there was what people believe about that crystal. So certain people believe this. And it reminds me of a concept Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about a bit, is the placebo and nocebo effect. And that effect is that if you the nocebo, people might be familiar with the placebo effect, where you can give five people who are sick a drug, and the other five people the same pill, but it's got no drug in it, and tell them it's all going to make them feel better in 24 hours. It's going to cure their headache or whatever it is. And study after study has shown that the placebo, the drug, which wasn't a drug, will have the same or very comparable results to the actual drug. So that tells us that the power is in the mind. The power of healing is already in the body, and it's the power of belief that makes the healing happen. So you can relate that to the crystals and the vibration. And you can say that if enough people are looking, if we go back to that bar and everyone looking at us as we come in with different intentions and different energy, if all those people, if the bar suddenly disappeared like in Inception movie, and all the walls fell down and all the characters turned into Zen masters, and they looked at you walking in, and they looked at, and suddenly you saw there was a crystal in your hand, and they were all looking at this crystal, you would too believe that this crystal had the power to knock down all those walls and change the shape or reveal the shape shifting nature of all the people around you. And this crystal in your hand, which you didn't know you held, would suddenly have power.
Yeah,
Now, did the
fuck.
power come from the crystal or the belief and the energy and the focus of all those people?
That's like the exact same question. Did the chicken come before the egg? Is that does that make sense to you? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's
Someone
so
said this a
interesting.
lot briefer, Ben, once before. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Yeah.
That's so interesting. So your argument is that even the whether or not the crystal has power or not, your energy, your ability to create magic is what gives it the power.
I won't answer with a straight up answer because how would that be entertaining? I will quote the Matrix again. I'll misquote it, I think.
Yeah.
The trick is not to bend the spoon, but to realize there is no spoon.
Yeah.
Isn't it something like that?
Yeah. Yeah. You said that spot on,
Did
actually.
I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's That's interesting to me a lot. So, because a lot of people will say, skeptical people in general who are, that they like to claim that they're higher beings because they're very scientific and
Yes.
logical.
Yes.
They will say that, oh, crystals, they've never worked for me. So that justifies that, in my reality, crystals don't work. But then
Yeah.
many people find that they do work. And it does come from a belief and a strength. And this is interesting too. I have you read Harry Potter
Uh,
or watched the movie at least?
I've watched the movies. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so much deep stuff in there, man. There's I read that throughout the pandemic. I
Right.
could not. There's so much I could say,
Yeah.
especially about the books, because the books, they give you just that extra couple of layers,
Yep.
as books do.
Yep.
But so they like there's this world of muggles and wizards, and how do I even put it all together? It's so massive, but to create a spell, you must say the magic word. You must have the belief in it. You must have the tool, and so it's the magic word. It's the tool, which is the wand. Magic word is Wingardium Leviosa. The tool, and then there's you. You hold the wand. You are the one that can create. But you must hold the wand, and you must say the magic word, and you must believe. The spell Expecto Patronum, which is the spell that gets rid of the Dementors. That requires you to think of the most happiest that you've ever been and the most loved that you've ever been. And once you get to that level of love, then you can say the word and then hold the wand, and then boom, magic will come out. And so I feel like this is what you're saying in regards to crystals and to energy and to frequency, where we are the wizards in our life. We have the power to create whatever we want. Would you agree with that?
I would. I do. And I must be implored now, it seems, to read Harry Potter because it seems to me that J.K. Rowling is really trying to teach the power of visualization and of feeling. I call it future feeling, where but you're remembering from the past something beautiful and having that beautiful loving energy and that power, and it's what I believe that we all have. And if I was to speculate on why certain things are happening in the world in the way that they are, it would be that some people know that they can harness that energy of others, that creative energy of others, by by brainwashing them, basically, to give their energy to a cause other than their own creative power. So to give their energy, you can see it very clearly at a football match where people are cheering for their team. They might be a new player that's never played before. It doesn't matter. They're going to cheer for him as much to kick that goal because they're cheering for a concept. They're cheering for memories. They're cheering for a team that connects them to family and friends or whatever. But they're giving so much energy to someone else getting a result. They'll feel um, they'll feel joy or sadness or despair depending on how that result goes. But it's outside of them. It's externalized. It's that solar plexus. It's the heart chakra. It's all that is. It's just open up, and all that energy is flowing out there, rather than coming in and saying, "What do you want to create for yourself? What do you want to? What magic are you going to make for yourself?" And bring that energy in. Put down the hot dog. Put down the beer. Walk out of this arena and go and sit under the tree and think about how you really don't want to go to that job on Monday and that you can walk away from it. You can find the power to find out where your hero's journey is going to go. You don't need to cheer for someone else's.
Yeah, right. You know, it's so true because even for like a rock star or something like that, when people are, this is one of the reasons why I'm really against festivals these days as well. You know, you are going up to a crowd of people. There's like one, five people on stage, and everyone's cheering, and it's all of the crowd's energy, and it's just been boom, like it's giving it to the rock star, which is why the rock stars and athletes and such have this sort of I don't know, this like this energy, this I don't know, they have this like this energy boost as it were because
Yeah,
everything's getting projected onto them.
yeah.
That's
And yeah, and I think that you can see it come to life in some, like Tom Cruise is probably the most famous movie star of our time. He's getting older, but he's still got great energy, regardless of what do you think of his private life and his spiritual beliefs, because we're made to think about those sort of things. He is an intense guy. He is focused. He does his job amazingly well. He's so committed. He does stuff that I can't imagine. That motorbike stunt in that movie, that he did anyway. But and he's got an aura that comes out of the screen, and from all accounts, when people are talking about meeting him, that aura is there too. It comes from his intensity, it comes from his years of manifesting his what he wants, but from being a wizard. He's a super wizard. He creates the spells. He goes, I want to do a movie like this and I'm going to do it, and he's got the wand of the connections, which he's built up over years. He's got his intention. He's got his good memories. He's got all the things that J.K. Rowling said that the wizards needed. He's got all that. And so his power just grows and grows. It's his power to create his life how he wants to do it. And we watch and we give our energy to him as well because we want to see a bit of ourselves in him, like we want to see a bit of ourselves in the guy who kicks the winning goal. So there's a bit of an exchange, like we get something out of it. But I remember years ago a friend saying about I met some when I was doing music in London. I was working at a studio and some big names came through, and I met Chris Martin and shook his hand. I met George Martin too, the Beatles producer, and a few people like that. Paul McCartney said "bless you" as he walked through one day, thinking it was me that sneezed, but it was someone else. But and my friend commented about the energy of these guys, these musicians, and how he thought that a lot of that had come from people admiring them from so much. They're getting that energy from other people, and then they're creating the life they want. So they seem to have, compared to most people, a sort of superpower. So, but that superpower is pretty recognizable as that energy transference, and so that vibration, you're sending me this energy. It's like we go back to the bar and everyone's turning and looking at you, but they're really happy to see you, and they just sending you lots of good energy. You're going to feel that vibration. It's going to lift you up, right?
absolutely. And you know when you've walked into a bad bar as opposed to a good bar. Like you know instantly whether or not you are welcomed.
Man,
Yeah.
that's why I use that analogy because I remember walking into a bar in the East End of London once, and I mean, it's like they just knifed someone under the table. You could, it was palpable. We turned around. There was hardly anyone there, but we just turned around and left. And I always remember that feeling. And it happened on honeymoon too. When I was on honeymoon with my wife, we got into a cab. Had a drink somewhere. We were drinking still, and couldn't understand the language. And he'd go, "I'll take you down here. Take you down here," and took us down this back alley. And there was no one there. Then the lights went off on and like, what's going? Something's going on here. Like taking us to some, I don't know where. Anyway, we managed to get out of there. But you can feel when the energy is slipping.
Mm, yeah. This is very interesting. I want to I feel like we've talked about what is frequency, what is vibration, and I hope that the audience understands what we are talking about. Of course, if you guys want to know more, look it up. Do some research. Look at Ben's channel. He's on Instagram, and he's talking a lot about these sort of things. And I think this is very very important. I really want to get into this. It is related to, but do you think Okay, so I'll give you a backstory. There is this notion in TV, right?
Mhm.
You in many shows where something like Harry Potter. I don't know if you know Dragon Ball Z, perhaps Dragon
Is
Ball
that
Z.
is that a character or a show?
Show Dragon Ball Z, Goku, Vegeta.
No,
Nah, wow,
no.
yeah, okay. It's a bit of
I
an
probably
older
is
cartoon,
it?
so I thought you might know
Okay.
that one.
No, 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 no.
Anyways, so even
I know
even
Monkey Magic. I know Monkey.
I don't know what that is.
But,
But anyway, so with a lot of animes,
mm,
so and so Harry Potter is one that everyone knows. I know everyone's going to know Dragon Ball Z and Naruto and all of these things.
yeah.
So there is this like underlying layer that basically you can use the energy to for Dragon Ball Z, you can use energy and like bring it up closer and then harness it and then shoot it like a laser beam.
Hmm.
For Naruto, it's like you do like a certain mudra, right?
Hmm.
It's really
Hmm.
interesting. They've got like mudras, right?
Hmm.
And basically, because they tell you how they do it in the show, and it's for me, there's always been some level of truth into that because it's just there's something true about it. So for Naruto, they do a mudra and they activate a chakra, and then they use their minds to basically, for an example, like shoot a fireball out of their mouth. For Harry Potter, we talked about that before. So basically, what I'm trying to say, do you think it is possible, and even for X-Men, like there's these mutants that have these supernatural powers. My question is, what do you think the what do you think is the reality for an individual to at least do you think it's true? Do you think what they're saying in these animes, these TV shows, do you think there is this truth behind it where you can use your chakras and your energy, harness it, and then basically shoot cool lasers?
I'll answer by demonstration with a crystal ball that's tuned to 432 hertz. My intention is for you listening to let go of whatever you are holding on to, which is causing you any physical distress or emotional distress or intellectual distress. When you hear this sound, you will breathe out and let go of all that tension. And what will come in is pure love, light, creative energy for you to create something new for your life.
Put it closer to the mic. Closer to the mic. Nah, not getting anything, man.
Oh, we'll continue.
That was such a mad like
Oh,
intro as well.
I was
Like
a
I was
great
I was
intro.
ready. You put me in the
You're ready.
space. I was like,
You're ready. I
okay,
saw
cool.
you. But you got to break the tension sometimes. Here. That coming through?
Slightly.
Slightly. Oh, I thought that was going to come through for sure. It was a nice loud one. Well, that's funny. Yeah, let's see. I've got one more angle. Let's try this one.
Damn. Nah, sorry, man.
Oh, all right. Well, my intention is pure. Let me try one more. Well, that's fascinating.
Does it usually work through the
Uh,
recording?
that pitch, well, maybe that mic was down. Hold on, I might have hit the mic.
No. Maybe the mic is down.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm hearing you clearly with you not even talking into the mic.
Oh, really?
Ah, that's
Is
that's
that
on.
louder?
That's loud. Yep, that's on.
Okay. All right. Well, now I'll have to answer in the traditional way. Absolutely, I do. Because do I believe maybe that example there just showed my lack of faith in the technology which I'm using for this Zoom, because I've struggled with it in the past and I'm still finding the way to. That's why I do my recordings, and I don't do a lot of live work like this, because the frequencies, I'm yet to find the best way to get them in the live experience. But in the recording, I have no problem, and I'm very confident with that. And um, but I know I've done recordings, and I need to get to a space where I am centered and in my energy and connected to what I need to be connected to deliver the reading in the recording that I know is going to have the most impact. And over the years, I've been able to recognize when I'm in that state, when there is power in my voice, and when there is something bigger than me, bigger than my ego, most definitely, being activated. To answer this question in a slightly different way, I'll tell a quick story. I had one of the most unusual sound healing experiences of my life a few months ago, when a sound healer I met offered to give me a sound healing because I'd done a meditation for him. And we booked in, and he wasn't far from me. I'd been to his place before, and he emailed me to say we'll do it remotely. I took that to mean we'd have a Zoom. When I got onto the Zoom to have my sound healing, basically he communicated, "Oh no, we won't do the Zoom. I'll be doing the healing where I am, and you'll be receiving it where you are." This was a sound healing, and he's like, 20 kilometers away or something. And so he was offering to give me a sound healing, but I wouldn't hear the sound. I wasn't going to be in the same room, and nothing was going to come across on the Zoom. And what that did for me is it challenged me. I'm doing sound healing. I'm doing frequency work. I'm making these recordings for people so they can hear the sounds and to get the benefits of the frequencies and the binaural beats, which are the frequencies that happen between frequencies. And this guy's offering to do me a healing. I'm not going to hear anything. And then I just went into a place of trust, and I opened up and I sat down in this very chair, and I turned towards where I knew he was, and I relaxed and opened to the healing. And it was then I thought, he's doing this. So it was an act of trust that he was there performing his healing with intention, right? We talk a lot about intention in healing. We shouldn't talk about it as much as just practice it. But I trusted that he was doing the healing and was pure of intention. And so I needed to be pure of intention to receive. And as silly as I might have felt having a sound healing with no sounds, I also know that if he's hitting a tuning fork wherever he is, that well, you may not hear it, but that vibration is traveling in the air, and that it is changing the air somehow that's here in a very slight way, perhaps, in a way that might be impossible for any tools we have to measure, any devices we have to measure that change. But I know that the butterfly flapping its wings in Africa has an effect on me. I don't know exactly how. I don't know how profound. I don't know the chain of events, but I know that I'm part of a whole that is affecting me. And the intention of that sound healing would be received by me. And I'm talking about it now. It has changed me. It's opened me up. That one healing opened me up to a bigger potential, to believe that I'm not the only one who believes in a bit of magic, who can say, I'm going to give you a healing, Josh,
Mm.
with that great introduction. And that's all the healing was in the end, on one level, because we couldn't hear the crystal bowl.
Mm. But then I guess like I was getting ready. Like I was just closing my eyes. I breathed. I was ready to receive. And even then, I still felt like the sense of calmness.
Yes. How wonderful. And so, will you, who's listening to this, maybe have felt something similar? And then even the relief and the laughter of the mic not picking up the sound after the magnificent introduction. Well, at least we've got that introduction forever.
That's right. Yeah.
um, and the intention, and I guess there's probably something in the Harry Potter books about, how much, how many, is there any time they do a group spell because the enemy is so foreboding or has so
Mm.
much dark energy that they all need to come together and, for the spell to work, that one of them doing it isn't enough?
Absolutely. Yeah. I
Right.
mean, the fourth movie is a prime example of that, where the so Harry Potter and Voldemort were head to head, and the it's really interesting. So the spirits of Voldemort's murders, like all the people that he killed,
Yes.
were inside the wands that he had, right? And so in the movie, Harry Potter is fighting Voldemort. So with respect to 14 years old, he's doing an astoundingly good job. But then those like two like powers are get neck to neck, and then Voldemort starts winning, and then the ancestors or the spirits of the dead came out of the wands and came to help Harry, and and that was Harry's parents as well. So there's also this archetype of your ancestral heritage always being within you to help give you energy so you can fight darkness. And that happens multiple times. Even like Dumbledore, pretty sure when he um, passes, he ends up giving some of his energy to Harry Potter in a particular. I don't know if it's just in the book though. I don't know. But anyways, that's definitely a thing where people will combine energies to fight evil.
Mm. And I think it's good to be mindful of that when you're practicing yourself, healing for yourself, or even bringing a healing consciousness, a vibration, raising your frequency. And even if you're conscious of that's what you're trying to do, or that's what you're working at doing, and you go somewhere and you have an experience and you find it hard to stay in that energy, you know, it, that is part of that conflict is part of the process of the evolution, of me even like attempting to do that crystal bowl healing. That's part of the journey. Is it the technology that's at fault? Is it like what's the? I'm basically going into a new world, and that's part of the journey. So if you're listening and you are raising your energy and vibration from tuning into Josh and this podcast and the people who are coming on, and they're encouraging you in all of our different ways to keep going on that path, then, that's the most important thing. You'll find your wand. It might be a literal wand. It might not be, but there is something that you are bringing into this world that has magic, and you believing in that magic again and again and more makes it more and more real and more powerful, a positive influence on those around you.
I definitely have seen this in full flown reality before. And for me, my experience with having utmost faith and belief in a particular idea, crystal, or concepts, yeah, has been life changing for me, even just to have the belief behind it. But I'd like to, because this is really a hidden question. So, can as a human being, can
Mm.
I shoot fireballs out of my hands? Or when can I do that, and how is
When
that
can you do that?
possible? Yeah,
Right.
because I would really love to do at least something like that.
I've read a lot of an author called Stuart Wilde. Yeah, get that. Was just get the focus on you. And in some of his books, he ends up talking about, as you get deeper into it, people walking through walls, that he has seen people walk through walls. And while I have never seen that, part of me believes that it's possible because of my concepts that I believe in terms so much as what we're made of, right? How much is space and how much is particles and not much. And is fire a metaphor for the energy? Do you want actual fire? I think in I think that if we can think something, and I say this, and my wife agrees, we both say it. If you can think it, it's happening somewhere.
Hmm.
And that is a extraordinary idea in the negative and the positive, because when we're in a fearful state or we're anxious and we have a nightmare, there's things that we can imagine that are just terrible, right? And if we lived in a world where that materialized straight away, well, that would be some sort of crazy world. I think that what this realm is about is somewhere in between, where we are creating with our thoughts, but we have to do it again and again. We have to sort of get into a pattern so that we can experience something, so that we can sort of ease into this magnificent power of creation we have with our thoughts. So if you want to shoot fire, I believe you can do it, and you can move your frequency into a realm where that is possible. I don't know what else happens in that. Does everyone shoot fire with their hands?
Hmm.
So it won't be so impressive anymore. Are you living in a realm where you're the only one who shoots fire from your hands? And what does that mean? You'll be a god in that realm. Are you ready to be a living god on earth? There's lots of questions that come up for me with that idea. But I certainly believe there's power that we have dormant within us that we can learn to channel, and it can do amazing things. And sending energy and directing energy is one of those things.
That is a really interesting idea, and I've never thought of that in my entire life. And I think about these things way too much. Like that, it's really interesting
Yeah.
to go into the idea of perhaps an individual have a different type of hidden power within them. So for I have to reference series and movies because that's where all of these things are quote
Mm.
unquote true.
Hmm.
In Mortal Kombat,
Hmm.
in the movie, there's this thing called the Arcana, which is basically like the hidden power within yourself, right?
Hmm.
And so it's the basically the hero's story is he's like an MMA fighter, and he realizes that he's quote unquote chosen to fight evil, and he has to activate his Arcana, and he eventually activates it, and he gets armor all over his hands, and he's kind of like made out of steel. His friend, on the other hand, he activated his arcana, and then he was able to shoot a laser out of his eye. So every arcana was very unique to the individual. And to go into this idea of perhaps, forgive me if I got this wrong, but if you, if like, oh, this is interesting. So perhaps you're the subconscious mind, subconscious realm, the, as what we was discussing before the podcast, perhaps the subconscious is a reflection of yourself and it lives in like the fifth dimension.
Mm,
And that's, maybe that's your soul's dimension.
mm,
Maybe if you can go into that dimension and extract what you need out into this dimension, you'll
mm,
be able to shoot fire, ice, or whatever is within your own dimension.
mhm.
That, holy shit, that could be true. I don't give a shit what people think. That is interesting. I
Well,
wonder. I really wonder because it's
people,
possible to lucid dream. You can go
yes,
into the dream world.
yes. And I know there was years ago when I did some astral traveling before I went to London. I was living in a flat and I had that experience and I had it deeply and I went quite far. And I also know I've had experiences in my life where I've manifested things and I've been almost, I remember feeling almost scared because I manifested them so easily. It was like I wanted a certain job on TV or whatever, and then I'm there and I'm doing it. And it's like, oh wow. And this is where that self-sabotage thing can come in, where it says, well, you can't keep doing this. You can't keep creating like a god, because you're not, you're just this or whatever. And yeah, the courage to be gods, maybe that's what we, that what we can find, to bring something from the other dimension. A lot of people are talking about fifth dimension or, whatever, so many dimensions. But you can do it quietly without talking about it too. You can activate and go and find something. That's a really good. I love that idea. I'm gonna go and bring something back from the other dimension into this one.
I just, if that's how you, I wonder if we just like cracked the code then, because that just, that's a really, because I've been, admittedly, ever since I've started meditating and doing chakra work, which was, this is going back when I was 17. This is before I
Mm,
met you. I got injured when I was 17, so I couldn't walk properly and run and do all the training and stuff like I wanted to for like 2.5 years. And it wasn't until I got healed, then I met you, and I was dancing, and yeah, so I was like a year in of being healed after I met you. But the
mhm,
2-3 years prior to me going back into training, I was
mhm,
pretty much crystal, chakra, spirit guide. Like, I was reading books at that time, and that was where like my more intellectual and philosophical side of me actually manifested, because
mhm,
I couldn't really run, I couldn't work
mhm,
out. I could do some training, but I was so depressed that I couldn't actually, dance or do kickboxing, that I was like, there's no point in doing weights. And so I just delved into meditation and reading, and I really like sat there and like tried to like active and put like a bowl into my hand, and like I can feel it, I feel the energy, but
mm,
then it's like, yeah, I couldn't get it to the point where I could see it, and I guess move objects and do all sorts of really awesome stuff that I would love to do. And then I eventually, you get distracted, and I've sort of delved in, and then I've delved out. But even into relates to chakras, like anyone who has done chakra meditation has felt their chakras pop or like vibrate or heat up. Like,
mm,
whenever I activate my third eye, it just pulses. Like, it's just like, and that's like the same with like all of my chakras when I just put my energy into that one spot.
mm,
And so for me, it's like magic is definitely real, energy is definitely real, and there must be a way to harness it so that you can, well, do cool shit like fly. Like, who doesn't want to do that? Like, maybe I watched a lot of TV when I was younger. I wasn't brought up in like a very what would you say, quote unquote perfect environment. Like, it was
holistic.
holistic. Like, I didn't really have much guidance. It was just like, here's a TV. and pick what you want to watch. It was, yeah, it sounds really
Here's
bad
a
to say.
microwave.
Yeah, here's a microwave, go have it. But anyway, so obviously I have these thoughts from all those shows, but there's definitely a certain truth behind it for me, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to. So I think we cracked the code, and we need to get back and speak to each other once we go back and do our training. We come
Yes.
back in a couple of months, and then
Yes.
I'll show you my powers, and you show me
Okay.
yours.
That's a deal. That's a
That's the
deal.
deal. I really want to touch on 5G. I
Yep.
want to touch on Wi-Fi.
Yep.
Because people are really concerned about 5G in particular because it has so much publicity behind it, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people are really concerned.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't so concerned about 4 or 3G, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe just more and more people are waking up behind it. But I'd really like, if you have time, of course,
Yeah.
um, talk about why 5G is, bad, and we don't want it, like, and it's not just like some weird conspiracy theory, like it's not
Mm.
a good thing for humankind. So I would like to just, I don't know, hear your opinion on 5G and Wi-Fi and all of these artificial frequency and vibrations.
Yeah. Well, I'm big into nature, but I use technology every day, and I love to stand on the sand and stare at the sun sometimes, and sun gaze, and feel the earth under my feet and swim in the ocean. And I feel these things are a priority for me, and a priority for anyone who wants to feel their humanity, to feel the power of being a man or a woman in this realm on this earth. And the offer of uh, certain technologies is something that I've embraced over my life, from the first small computer we had at home, and I remember the first time I got a mobile phone, actually, and it was in the 90s. It would have been. I can remember the room I was in when I put this phone, quite a big thing, up to my head, and I felt a bit dizzy straight away. I was like, I remember the room, because I thought, what's this? Because at that time I'm thinking, anything that we can buy is safe, because why would they don't let us buy, there's a government to protect us, all that stuff. So I had no problem putting that phone up and just going, there must be something wrong with me because I'm getting dizzy from this phone. And slowly but surely I would take that phone away from my head, and then the screens got big and you could hold it out there. Now I rarely ever have it anywhere near my ear. So I'm very aware of the power of this technology to negatively impact us. And we got a meter reader, spent quite a bit of money on getting a meter reader during a few years ago. So, and we turn our modem off at night, and like I said, don't keep our phones up to our head. And there was a time there where we wouldn't have the phones on in the car, because of the bouncing signals coming off those. They look like big toilet brushes, don't they? The 5G
Hmm.
towers.
They look evil. They
They
look
do.
evil.
What I think about them is that they're not what they are pretending to be. The internet service hasn't got any better. If anything, it's got worse since 5G came up. Then I just don't believe that they are what they have been sold to be, or their purpose. I think their purpose will reveal itself to us in coming years. Some people might know now, some people might speculate, but I think it's really important. I actually wrote a song, No 5G. I went to a protest up here in Byron Bay. I got right into it. But I also, going through that, decided and realized that I was focusing on what I didn't want. And one of the most important things that I have learnt in the last only couple of years is to put my money where my mouth is, to put my life where my ideas are, and to focus on what I want to create, not on what I don't. And I used to think that by focusing on what I don't want, or what I think is bad, was okay, because I was calling people out and I was drawing attention to uh, people misleading us, or poisoning us, or whatever. But increasingly, I think the better use of my energy is to take care of myself, my family, make my own choices for myself, that I think are the healthiest ones, and to focus on creating a world that I want. So I could go and study and look at the 5G towers and who's find out what the technology is and how it's affecting the cells negatively, how it might be changing the water quality around it, all these things. But maybe I'm glad that people are having that fight. I get emails from people, from a woman, I think she's based in Victoria, who runs a company that help people with Wi-Fi, uh, mitigating the effects and all that. So my personal view is, yeah, turn your modem off. Don't sleep next to a modem. Watch out for it. Don't have it close to you, but don't give it too much energy either, is what I would say. Don't worry. It's another trap for them to get your energy, them or whatever, for the energy, for the dark energy to absorb itself through you when you get too worried about these things. And that there's a godliness, a warrior in you, in all of us, that can stand up, be bigger, like the phoenix behind you. There's nothing that can affect you in a negative way if you get your wand, believe in your power, and wave it and cast your spell and create your life how you want.
Damn, that's cool. I get so caught up in the fact that like all of this EMF radiation is constantly around me, and I personally have really speculated on the fact that I really think that it has affected me, because I've never been more prone to eating junk food and smoking weed and watching TV. Like before the pandemic, as it were, I was very much. It was just very easy for me to like sort of say no. It was very easy. I could just say no, and I guess with respect to everything that's happened, and I guess some would argue like, oh, you're just trying to escape and it's all in your mind, and like perhaps it all is, but I find that, yeah, I've definitely felt like this little needle in my mind saying like the 5G is affecting us, the Wi-Fi, all of these EMF radiations. And so, but what you're saying is that like it's almost like akin to, so 5G is this evil, being, and it's casting a negative frequency upon the land. But all we have to do as individuals is just cast a spell and it goes away.
Yeah.
But that just sounds so simple, because to me the only answer must be to blow it up physically. That's where my
Yeah.
mind goes. I've talked about this, and I don't care about talking it on a podcast, because
Yeah.
like this is who I am. I'm authentic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've really thought about it, and honestly, if I was smart enough to create dynamite, I would probably have blown up at least 20. But I don't have
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
resources, and
Yeah.
I'm working on it though.
Yeah,
Working on
but
it.
you have a better resource. You have the resource of your imagination and your visualization and the creative power to choose your path. And there's nothing that can get in the way of your path when you are committed to it. And that path, I mean, is what you're going to allow to fill up your head. In Harry Potter, I'm sure they come for him. I can't remember where, but certainly in my Harry Potter, which was Star Wars,
Mm.
the Force, the dark side comes to tempt Luke, and his eyes get a bit darker, and he's like he loves the power of it that it gives him, and I'm reminded of that with this discussion because yes, the darkness will seem to be outside of us and will seem to be a threat caused by someone else, and it'll seem to be having effect to us. Um, and it is a big stretch for a lot of people, and that's why most people might not make it, to take responsibility for that as a manifestation of you as well. To go, well, I've created that, so I can create how I feel about it. I've created that in this realm, so I'm going to wake up tomorrow and not care about it anymore. That doesn't mean I'm not aware that there's energy around me that might not be the best for me, but I'm not going to give that any more energy. I'm going to I'm going to guard my energy. I'm going to feel the fire in my hands. The way I can throw fire is by pulling back that energy that I'm giving to something else. An idea, maybe, the idea of 5G being bad. I'm not saying you're not right, and or anything like that. But where is the power? Bring the power back, I'd say. Feel that fire in your hands. You don't need dynamite. You have fire and it's coming up, and it's coming up through the earth and the infinite reach of the eternal universe. And you pull that in, and that fire's in your hands. And you can throw that fire at that 5G tower, and that can represent to you no power anymore, right? And then you pull some more fire from around you, and you put this ball of fire around you, and there's nothing that can touch you. And you create your life, and you choose what you eat and what you drink and how you feel about that. And there's nothing that can affect you.
That's awesome. I think I'd like to really, yeah, sort of just like take that moment for the audience, like just to sit there and like really try to think about what Ben is actually trying to say. Like, like you yourself have this energy, this frequency. You are vibrating. You are energy, and you can expel that out. Even when you walking into a room and you're feeling very happy or you're feeling very sad, everyone can sense that energy. So your energy, that in and of itself is enough evidence for me to say that you can expel your energy outwards. And so if you are an individual that is concerned about 5G and EMF radiation, then maybe maybe take what Ben is saying with just a little bit more like, hmm, inch put a little bit more interest in it. Maybe even try it. Maybe like really sit there and practice harnessing your energy and making a shield around you. And perhaps you're not able to see it, but perhaps you're not able to see it because the spectrum of light is not, you're not able to see that spectrum of light with your eyes, because we can only see like, I don't know, like uh, uh, seven main colors. Then there's colors in between, but then like UV and gamma and all of these other uh, light spectrum, these waves, you can't see them. So maybe have trust, maybe have faith that you are a wizard. Like, and that might sound a bit wacky, but honestly, I think even if what we're saying isn't true, if your belief in it gives you a better life, then well, I mean, there's no like you can't lose anything from this. That's the thing,
Exactly.
right? Yeah. And
Beautifully put.
that's cool, man. I feel like we could really talk for hours about this, but I'd also, want to be respectful of your time and all of that. And I think this is just like a really good stopping point to, yeah, let it naturally, let it just flow out. I got one more question for you, and this is not really related. Well, it is, but it's because, to be honest, man, I respect you a lot. I and I say that from the bottom of my heart. You and I, we, yeah, went through a lot together, and I think, it was for me so encouraging to see that you were able to stand on your own 2 feet and tell the truth about what happened, what was going on with, COVID and the scamdemic. And like you and a few others were like, my only people that I could talk to. And so I just think that you're like this, this like grandfather lion, like coming in. You got your like your hair, your mane is all like out. Your hair's a lot longer
Well,
too. It's like you've
yeah.
gained a mane, bro.
Yeah, I have, mate.
You're a lion. And so as a young cub, I guess I wanna like ask you, like, as what is your, how would you suggest an individual, like a young man, to, what's your advice for young men? Because this is a lot of men in my community, anyways, in my algorithm, a lot of men are suffering because they lack purpose, drive. strength. They don't know what to do. They feel like the world is ending around them. They feel like they don't have a say in society. Women walk all over them. Other men will trample them. The government just seems to think that they can just do whatever they want because they have all the guns. And so most men are just feeling so helpless, and there's no guidance, there's no story, there's no archetype for us to follow. It used to be Hercules, Thor, Jesus, but with our Western world, we don't have religion. And so I guess what is your advice for a young man who just wants to just be like step up and be himself,
Mm.
be the man he's meant to be? how
I'd say,
how how do we do that?
how do we do that? Well, I'd say two words: be strong. And I say those words because instead of get strong, I was originally going to say that. But when you say be strong, that implies I've already got the strength. But I would say to a young man, if I had a son, and I've got daughters and we're sort of doing the same thing, but start with the physical, start with what you have. Because, and I don't need to tell you, you've done this and you're doing it, right? But if there was a man who was struggling, I'd say get strong, find your strength. And, I've seen on TikTok and Instagram, there's people with one leg and one arm who are working out, who've got cerebral palsy or whatever. There's all sorts of challenges. There's obese people. You can't even say that word anymore, right? But there's obese people who get fit, it's not about just getting skinny and slim, but they get fit. They stop carrying that weight around and they find their strength. And I think that it's a great place to start because it leads to more confidence in every aspect of your life. When you feel strong, when you work out, when you get stronger, when you can do more push-ups this month than you could last month. This is not just about changing your aesthetic. It's about realizing that you've got, this temple and you are the architect. You get to create it. And this is where it starts. And because that then you start to watch what you're eating and you drinking and drugs or alcohol or all those other things that might be offered and around you. And I remember seeing something about one of the best surfers in the world. I can't remember his name. He's about to retire. But anyway, he's always said no. He had the vision, and he never drank at parties. He never took drugs, and he despised people who did that around him. That's not going to be the same for everyone. People are going to be influenced by their peers, their friends. But you can also come out of that, and you can start to choose for yourself what you're creating. So be strong, and I mean make your choice. If you say, I'm going to get up in the morning and go for a run, do it. David Goggins is really popular at the moment, isn't he? I've seen enough of him to know that, he's pretty out there and shouting, come on, go get him. But, find that strength. And if you hear yourself saying, but I'm not strong, be gentle with that voice and say, well, that's your idea, subconscious, but we're going to change that. I'm going to show you we are strong. Getting strong, getting strong. I think that was a Rocky song. Shows my age again. That's where I'd say start, because it simplifies it too. It's what can I do to change the world? I can change me. What can I do to feel better about the world? I can feel better about myself. And it starts there, and then other things that you thought you were worried about, you'll stop worrying about, and you'll also just grow your confidence, and that'll mean you make better decisions in every aspect of your life.
Well said, Ben. Well said. How can people find you? And please, tell us about your coaching program that you just got up, please.
Yeah, well, I've just started something I've called Empowered Now, and that's a monthly program. And I've made it really, really affordable. For the first 100 members, it's only $15 a month. And you get a binaural affirmation meditation every month. And that's got healing frequencies and binaural beats, and a guided meditation where you can hear the frequencies, not like before when I did the great introduction and then you couldn't hear it on this mic. Everything sounds great in these meditations. And you'll learn more about frequencies as we go on. And there'll be Zoom catch ups as well for people to share what's working. It's basically going to be a sort of powwow of positivity focusing our creative energy together on the world we want and what we're manifesting together. And I also do personalized affirmation theta hypnosis recordings, which are a bit more specific, and they're for the individual who really wants to address certain things in their life. And I have a questionnaire. You do that questionnaire online, and then we have a meetup like this and have a chat. And I'll feel into your answers and where else maybe I feel I could help you as a coach. And then I write a script, which is basically a uh, big championing of the you, and I then read that script with the special frequencies to get your subconscious engaged, so you can listen to that every day for maybe 21 days or 30 days. Some of my clients listen to it beyond that. And that is basically just telling your subconscious to create what you consciously want, to be as healthy, as wealthy, as loved, and as loving as you want to be. And we create that world by going straight to the subconscious. And the grant-empowerment.com is my website. Ben Grant Mitchell is my handle on Instagram.
Beautiful. Okay, well, that does it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Ben, for jumping on, and yeah, thank you for the audience for taking this time to listen. I hope you found great value in it. And well, any last words, Ben?
Thank you so much. And I'm really happy to have this chat with you. And I look forward to doing it again and to seeing you doing so well, mate. It makes me so happy. And I think if there's more men like you in the world, more young men like you, there'll be more happy young women as well. And the world will keep going on beautifully.
Well said. All right, everyone. That's us. Thank you, everybody, and take care.